Hey, have you ever wanted a vintage analog synthesizer emulation with a sequencer, 2 arpeggiators, and 4 different effect lanes? Well, that's just what Cherry Audio did. They just released the Trident, an emulation of the Korg Trident. Now, this one is called Trident Mk3, despite the original being 1 or 2. That's because Cherry Audio is making an enhancement, adding a lot of different features, especially new ways of programming sequences and effects. That's the usual philosophy of them, and this time they are expanding it even more than before. So let's check it out. So the original idea of the Trident is that you have 3 different sections: the synthesizer, the brass, and the strings. This was very common on the 70s and the 80s, for instance with the ARP Quadra, because you don't want to lose time trying to always make from scratch the more typical sounds of a synth. But of course, you also want to have the ability of program things from scratch. And the thing is, by combining these 3 layers, you can get very interesting textures. Now on themselves, you can see that these 3 timbres are pretty simple. The synthesizer has 2 VCOs, a filter, and 2 envelopes. The brass has the filter and also an envelope for that filter, and the strings is the one that's more different. It only has attack and release, it doesn't have a filter, but you can change the tone of the thing that you are playing. Not only that, it has 2 features that make it sound different, as the ensemble and the bowing, which will replicate a little bit of the sound of bowing a string. But still is pretty basic, and that's okay, because most of the effort from Cherry Audio went into making the effects and the motion features, which is a fancy way of calling the sequencer and arpeggiators. Now, of course, it's not only that, but those are the things that occupy most of the screen when you choose the motion. But before checking them, you can see that we have other parameters, for instance, the aftertouch controls, and also which timbres are going to be affected by the pitch bend and the vibrato. Besides that, we have this big keyboard, which you can use to split the different timbres into the different sections of, well, a keyboard. With that, for instance, you can play the bass with the synthesizer and the melody with the brass and the strings, or actually do whatever you want. You can edit it as you need. It has some presets too. But now let's go actually to the sequencer and the arpeggiators, because as you can see, we can use the 3 of them at the same time. Not only that, we can assign one to the synth, other to the brass, and other to the strings. This can get very complex because it lets you create multi-timbral polyrhythmic or polymetric style of sequences. Things that you have to make with this type of features, besides the craziness that I just showed you, is, for instance, a pad or a bass also works that has another layer of sparkling little plugs here and there. If you want to buy this synth or others by Cherry Audio or any plugin really, use my affiliate link down in the description, because that way you can support a little bit of my content. Thank you so much. So yeah, maybe it's just me, but I love having layers of sequences and arpeggiators to play with. I know that it can get crazy in no time, but again, it's super fun to experiment with. Now, as I mentioned layers, we need to check the effects, not only because of the sheer amount and variety they added now, but because each of the different timbres have their own effect chain, and also we have a global one. So we have 4 chains of effects that we can make. So going back to the example of making a pad with a sequence or an arpeggiator playing above it, we can use different effects so it doesn't get too washed out or too muddy. We can keep the reverb and the chorus subtle for the pad thing, and we can use a very wet delay and other creative effects on the sequence or arpeggio. Now I got to mention that they outdid themselves with the effects this time, because now we can use up to 5 on each chain, and not only that, we have new effects now. Now some of them are actually splits of older effects. For instance, now we have the digital delay and the tape echo separately. You can see on the digital we cannot choose the tape. And now the spring and the galactic reverb are different effects from the digital reverb. This is great because they can add extra features on those specific types of delays or reverbs. For instance, on the spring, we have the drive knob, of course, that let us make distorted type of reverbs. And also we can change the tension of the spring, of course, making it more physical. But as I said, we also have new effects. For instance, the BBD flanger and the compressor, which I think is based on the 1176. The dual ensemble that I'm not sure what's based on, but it looks similar to the one that comes with the polymode synthesizer. That's an old one. The other one that seems to be based on another synthesizer is the ring modulator, which looks exactly like the one on the GX80, which is an emulation of the CS80. We have the lush verb, which is a different sounding reverb with early reflections parameters. And we have the lo-fi, which will add wow and flutter, but also noise like vinyl, humming, and hissing. I just uploaded 10 presets for Terry Audio's Trident to my Patreon and channel members pages. If you are one, you can get it for free, of course, and if you're not, it's only $5. You can get the presets and then cancel. So go for it. Thank you. So you can go very deep with the types of effects that you can. You're so cute. Yeah, you're cute. My baby. So yeah, you can go deep with the effects chains that you can build. And I remind you that we have 4, one for each layer and one that's global. So to be completely honest, I don't mind which synthesizer they are emulating, because with all of these effects, I can create very crazy and complex things that has nothing to do with the original Trident. Of course, that doesn't mean that the emulation is not sweet. But yes, a very deep synthesizer in terms of the effects. Now, there's one thing that I'm missing in comparison to other synthesizers from Cherry Audio, especially the newer ones, and that's a mod matrix. I know that as an emulation, not every synthesizer has to have more modulations than the original, but again, I cannot not compare it to the last releases. I mean, the last one was the Krumar Spirit, and that also has different chains of effects and a very similar UI in terms of that. And it has the added mod matrix with 4 or 5 slots, if I remember correctly. Usually the mod matrix in Cherry Audio synths lets you not only add extra movement to all the things that you're making, but also audio rate kind of modulation. Now, maybe they didn't add it here because it would be overkill, but it's something that nevertheless I'm missing a bit. But still, that's just my opinion. I want to know your opinion about the synth as a whole. I like it, but of course, your opinion is also important. Thank you so much for watching. I will see you next time, and bye bye.